Hi! So today we'll be working on some syndrome themed Valentines. I also asked you guys some Valentine's themed questions for me to answer. This will probably come out, you know what, it's definitely going to come out the day after. But that's just how the cookie crumbled. So it's still February. It's still the month of romance. Anyways, so I have these four syndrome sketches, and I'm just gonna make some small syndrome themed postcards, so you call them, the mini little Valentines you give in class. And those are also available on my Twitter, my Instagram, and there's a special one available on my Patreon. Of course, it's a little late, so if you're giving these out now, you might need an extra gift or something, so your Valentine doesn't feel too bad about you not having the time the day of, but oh well. I'll mainly be lining the sketches in this portion, and I'm using the Kyle's cartooning brush as I work on top of my sketches. I was kind of on a deadline. Don't look at what time I was working on these, but I want to get them out quickly for TikTok. I don't think I really did it because it kind of flopped, but whatever. But yeah, I didn't put too much detail in these. I just want to ink quickly in a way that looked good, but may not be as careful as I typically enjoy. The style I ink these in is kind of similar to how I do comics, more for efficiency rather than looks. I will say that I wouldn't consider them sloppy though. There's definitely some aspects that I would do a bit more carefully if I had the time. But I struggle with drawing syndrome a lot, so these came out pretty good, especially the expressions I've never really drawn for him. In a lot of media and concept art, he's seen scrunching his eyebrows together, and for these pieces, I really relaxed his face, which was kind of surprising because I typically struggle with relaxing his eyebrows and still maintaining that syndrome vibe. I often illustrate him having a little mischievous grin, so to have him just happy and delighted here and not a hint of oh, what am I gonna get up to? That was a new thing for me, so I was very happy. Mind you, I will say this. I'm not gonna say I didn't try. I am going to say I was a little frustrated working on these, and I just want to get it out of the way because the first time I did this, the computer crashed and I didn't save anything. I was working in an unsaved, untitled document that was not in the cloud. So this is my second go around. I lost everything. I lost the sketches. And the sketches were so good. And I was just thankful that my memory was fresh enough where I remembered what it was I drew for each one. And I also had reference images of expressions and stuff. That way I could be okay, so I need this one, and this one. Stuff like that. Anyways, let's move on to these questions. So I asked you guys for some romance / love themed questions. I will disclaim that I won't answer a couple because some of them are syndrome focused. And while I am making syndrome themed Valentines, I'm just doing that because it's fun. You guys know that I make other art, right? The same way that some painters enjoy painting flowers, but sometimes they paint boats or the moon or birds. I enjoy drawing syndrome, but I make other stuff. You don't have to make every question syndrome themed. But anyways, one question was, what was my worst date? And this question was also followed with, what was my best date? So as a disclaimer, I didn't start dating till I was 18, and by the time I turned 19, I had already been in 4 relationships. I know some people wouldn't count something that short as a relationship, but we had agreed for each relationship to quote unquote go steady. So I would count that. And if I've been in that many, I guess you could probably guess that there were a lot of bad dates in all those relationships. It was pretty hard for me to pick a bad one, but I think this one definitely tops as bad. And it wasn't even my date's fault, surprisingly, given that for a lot of the instances, they were typically the guy's fault. So I met this guy online, and I'm gonna send a warning: don't use plenty of fish, because that's trouble. But I met this guy online, and our first 2 dates were like a bust. The first date, we were gonna go to a Bible study together. It was my idea because I was going, and he was like, I want to go on a date with you. And I'm like, well, I'm going to Bible study. So he was like, I'll come with. But it was my first time going to this Bible study, so I got lost. It was like on the other side of campus. So second date, we also had issues. In the middle of the date, his dad had a sudden emergency and kept him on the phone for like a whole hour. So yeah, that date was also an issue. So we were already dating somehow at this point, but we went on the third date, and this time it was much more casual. That way we would both know what to expect, you know? And by that I mean it was like after he got done with work, we just went out to like a place to eat, and it would be like a lot more simple than having the pressure of like a dinner date where emergencies come up or going somewhere new and not knowing how to find it. So we went to like a Southern classic, Bojangles. It was quick, it was nearby. Like I said, he had just got off work. I had just got done with classes, so we were both just like hungry and tired and wanted something where we can like sit down and eat, but it wasn't like a big thing. So we're talking, we're pretty much the only people in this Bojangles at the moment. It was kind of slow. And this waitress comes up. They don't really have waitresses at Bojangles, more like a cashier, but like she was just cleaning and stuff or whatever, so that's the best term to use for it. Anyway, she comes up to us and she's like, oh, how are you doing? You know, Southern hospitality. So we're just like, yeah, we're fine, whatever. And then she stops and she stays there a little too long. And she keeps asking us questions. After 3 bad dates, maybe this was the universe's way of telling me this guy was a bad omen. But things like this always happen to me, so I thought it was just a part of life's card. At first it was casual stuff like, how are you? You guys doing okay? Food's okay? Stuff like that. Which was kind of weird for Bojangles because like, it's just fast food. You're not gonna get any extra points unless you're the manager for doing stuff like that. And she was just a crew member probably, nothing in particular. Like, she seemed the same age as me, so that's why I'm like, I don't think they were paying her to do all that. But anyway, she just stays there. She starts talking about her own issues, and it wasn't just like yeah, I've been working all day, well, y'all have a good one. No. She stops and she's like, I'm just having so many issues with my baby daddy, and he has another baby mama, and she's pregnant, and we got in a fight, and I think one of them lost the baby. I don't think it was her. I think it was the baby mama that lost, the other baby mother that lost her baby. But something happened, and I'm just sitting there like, huh? And she's discussing like sugar daddy issues and baby father issues and just all this dramatic stuff. And like all the fights she's been in, and she's like, I've just been working so much, and I go home, my feet hurt so bad, and I just cry. I just cry and pray and talk to my mother. And at this point, I'm like, yeah. You know, like, that's sad, but like, I'm in a Bojangles right now. I'm trying to have my meal. I'm trying to have a nice casual date. So I'm like, okay, maybe she doesn't get the hint that we're not interested because we're not saying anything, but she's also telling like a dramatic story. So maybe she thinks we're like solemnly listening, like, oh. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. So I get up, I go to the bathroom, try to calm down, like, you know, like, okay, maybe once I get out there, she'll be gone. You know, maybe she'll take the hint. I'm thinking that if you're talking to 2 people and one gets up and leaves, it'll be like kind of awkward. So then you'll be like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna get back to work, whatever. I come back and she's still there. Like, she's not talking to my date, but she's kind of like lingering to the side and stuff, like close enough where she can still come back. And it's like, whew, maybe she's just still cleaning, you know, like she did stop at our table. Maybe she's cleaning at the tables and she'll just leave us alone and we can like eat our food and then go do something else. So I sit down and then she comes back. And I'm trying to eat my cold food and talk to the guy, and she gets closer, and it starts again. And it's kind of crazy how this is my worst date. Not technically because of something the guy did, and it's gonna sound very traditional, but I feel like as the man in the relationship, this is his moment to step up and say, hey, so we're just trying to have a date. Or his moment to step up and say, you want to get out of here? Something like that, especially because A, he asked me out, and B, he's the driver. So it's kind of like, I can't just get up and be like, okay, I'm going home. Like, he kind of has to take that initiative. But this time around, she comes back. Instead of talking about her own issues, she asks about us. And at first I was like, okay, I guess this is a better conversation point, you know? When you're having a conversation, don't just say I, ask how are you? Like, she did that at first, but like, I mean, like, when you're having an actual conversation, talk to the person. Though this shouldn't have been a conversation at all, it should have just been a worker casually walking past, checking on the people who are there, and then going about their tasks. It shouldn't have stuck this long. This is like a 2-person date, you know, not a 3-person date. So I was trying to send my partner like physical body messages like, hey, stand up for yourself, you know, say something. Not only is he like the guy in the relationship, because I know some people are like, oh, it's the 21st century, all that, he's the older one. In every term of way, I'm expecting him as the older one, the one who asked me out, brought me here, to speak up for himself. He's just sitting there like a deer in headlights, like, oh. She asked normal questions at first, like, oh, are you guys like dating? And we're like, yeah, we're on a date, you know, we're dating, we're girlfriend and boyfriend. And then she's like, oh, okay, y'all been together long? We're like, no. Or like, she doesn't answer that at first though. She goes, do you have kids too? So I'm guessing, now that I remember that question, that she didn't lose her kid. Or maybe she was just used to meeting other people her age who had kids, because when she was mentioning the whole pregnancy thing, I assumed she was older, but I think she said she was like close to our age. I was 18, my date was 20, so she may have said she was like 22 or like 20 something, like close to us though, like college freshman. It felt like a crazy question, because it's like, if you approach a couple and you ask, oh, you left the kid at home today? I feel like you expect to see a couple who are in their 30s or something who look like they're raising a kid, not a couple of college freshmen. But she's asking that and I'm like, no, we're not. And then she asks other questions. And she's like, so you guys been having sex? What? And I immediately shut that down. I'm like, no, I'm celibate. This is our 3rd date. None of that stuff is happening. I'm not having his kid. I'm not sleeping with him. She's asking like sugar daddy stuff, because that's what she was talking about before. I'm like, no, I'm not that type of person. And at one point, maybe I was just too naive at 18. I feel like another woman, like if I was another woman older than me, I was gonna say maybe if I was older, but I still give people the benefit of the doubt now. I feel like another woman older than me would have caught on that maybe she was trying to move in and flirt with my date. But I feel like that's kind of crazy because, again, she's working at Bojangles. And I'm not saying that as in like that's a bad thing. I'm saying that as in if I'm going to hit on a guy, the last place I'm going to do it is when I'm like mopping while working a fast food job. They want you to be as ugly as possible when you work. So also she said she's tired all day from working. So I'm very confused. It's like, this is like a weird thing. And you may say, how do you know she was flirting? Maybe she wasn't. But I think we were just like smiling to be nice, talking to her. And then she looks at my date and she goes like, you have dimples? Oh my gosh, your dimples are so nice. Something like that. I don't know. And I'm just sitting there like, this is weird. This is really weird. Because I have a dimple. She didn't say anything about me. So this is extra weird. So then I go to the bathroom again. And I think the first time I went to the bathroom seemed normal. The second time when I came back, my date kind of caught the clue like, oh yeah, we should probably get out of here. But he still didn't have the nerve to say anything. And then I'm trying to like finish off. We had like ordered like basic Bojangles food, like a plate of something. And we had those biscuits they serve. And the biscuits came in this like little box. Like they took a hot minute to come out. So I'm struggling like, how do I open this? Because the way the box was like folded or something, it was like difficult to like pull it open easily. And she's like, let me help you, girl. And she takes it and she just like pulls it open. Like she uses like a bit of force, but she doesn't tear it or anything. And it's like, thanks, but it felt kind of weird. It felt kind of like oh, you're so incompetent. Here, I'll show you how it's done. And again, maybe she didn't mean it that way. But I remember her doing it and it felt like everything just felt so intrusive. So I'm eating the little blueberry Bojangles biscuit or whatever. And then she says something that's the final strand of hay to break the camel's back. She says, "Oh, that must be why your ass is so big. All this bread." What? That's the kind of thing my mom would say to me when she's like, "Yeah, you should just drink a lot of water. You shouldn't even eat food. You need to lose weight." Stuff like that. Like, what did you just say to me? Now, in the Black community, typically, having a larger rump is seen as attractive. So maybe I missed a social cue. Maybe this was meant to be a compliment. Because some girls will say stuff like that. Like, "Oh, I need to figure out what to eat so I can get curvier. I need to eat more so I can be nice and thick and curvy." Stuff like that. But I've grown up as a fat girl long enough to know that that's not usually a compliment. And the other woman was also fat. So I'm kind of confused. Because I feel like it's either one, she didn't realize what she said. Two, she actually thought I looked good and maybe she was trying to like get the secret. But again, she's also fat. So it's like, Three, I feel like as another fat woman, she should realize this comes off weird. Like, most fat women know what not to say to each other because we hear everything in the book. Like, we know not to like mention our bodies most of the time because it's like we hear it all the time. We know when we compliment each other not to say something like, "Oh girl, you look like you've lost so much weight," unless we know the other person has been trying to lose weight, because we hear it so often when we're like sick. And then it's like, "Yeah, I have lost a lot of weight. I've been fighting the flu," something like that. Now, minus everything she said, if you're listening to this and you're like, "I don't think she said anything wrong. I think this was normal. You're probably just not used to social interaction." How long do you typically eat when you go out to a fast food place? Because I checked the clock when she started talking, and let me tell you, she talked for 4 hours. That's the length of 2 movies, 2 long movies in modern day time. That's too long. No matter what it is she said in those 4 hours, she could have spent all 4 hours telling me I was the most beautiful woman in the world. That's too many hours to be talking to 2 people who you know are on a date. That's too long. Take a break. In fact, that's the entire time of working that I would typically work at like a fast food place before they say, "Okay, take your 15 minutes. What? So yeah, that's definitely my worst date. Question 2 was, what was your best date? My best date is probably my most recent date. And maybe that sounds lame because it is Valentine's Day. So it's like, of course that's your best date. But my most recent date, we planned it together. Typically for dates, one or the other plans it, but since it's Valentine's Day, I'm like, let's work as a team. So for this date, he cooked. And every time my partner cooks for a date, it's a pretty nice date. He always cooks things that he knows I like. Like one time he cooked me a rack of ribs. Like we shared it. I didn't eat the whole rack. But like he cooked like a rack of ribs and my favorite pasta that I mentioned. Things like that. But today's date, I came out and he bought me a little bouquet of flowers and some sweets. And went to his place, and the plan was to make brownies. So I got the pan and he got the ingredients, and I helped him find the ingredients. And that was like a fun little like working together moment. I'll have to say that I do enjoy any date where my partner cooks because I hate cooking. And also, I think that he really enjoys cooking and he likes cooking things that he knows that I'll like. Anyways, if you've been watching along, you can see that we've done some basic flat colors for Buddy. I don't do anything really particular here. I just give him like freckles, blush, and a sclera. And I've like given this dark pink basic background for each artboard. And it's just like rose petals, little shoujo bubbles, sparkles, other random flower petals, things like that. I add YN on the hands because I thought I could make a cute TikTok with that, but I'm gonna like do basic Valentine's Day text afterwards. A lot of people ask how I started drawing Syndrome, and I used to like make little fan art of him in the beginning, and then I saw there was a lack of art of him online, like fan art, because you know the rule is like if it exists there's gonna be certain art of it, and there's not that much of Syndrome. And I was like, that's weird. I guess I know what my job is. But I say that because I started drawing Syndrome a lot because I want to show like what I can do. If you like Syndrome, I could draw you with Syndrome commission wise. And a lot of people are always like, oh, why is the YN black? I had to live my life too long with a basic pale skin, brown hair YN. So you guys can handle YN being a random black hand for now. Like, why is that suddenly so weird? But when YN was white, I didn't see any comments saying, why is YN white? When YN had pale skin and not an ounce of melanin, YN never saw the light of day. I didn't see any comments like, why? When YN had basic brown hair, I didn't see any comments like, why does YN have brown hair and not curly, coily black hair? So yeah, you guys can handle it. At this point in the illustration, I'm just adding some more touch-ups. I do tint the bottom of his lip, just so it's like not so flat colored. Like, this is a flat color illustration, but when I say not so flat, I mean like the image doesn't fall flat on the eyes. And I'm really hamming it up with like the Valentine's details. I'm giving each one like a blush, and each one's like a different variation of blush. And I was really like hoping the blush turned out okay, because I feel like it's kind of difficult to blush pale characters. Like, Syndrome's so close to being the exact color of white, it's really easy to use overpowering characters. Let's re-say that. It's really easy to use overpowering colors on his skin. When it comes to shadows, certain hues, lighting, even just his 5 o'clock shadow. I didn't give it to him here, but typically when adding that, I gotta be really careful not to go overboard. I tried to keep each Valentine in character for him, so I've got one like, I'm your #1 fan, Valentine. Something like that. Then for the second one, I thought to reference the scene where Mirage is upset that he almost sacrificed her life, as well as to reference the pilot where he referenced Helen as sweetheart. So I thought I'd use that. He was like, I had everything under control. In the pilot, he didn't know that Helen was a super, so he's like, don't bother calling 911, sweetheart. I already cut the lines, make it out the back. So I thought, yeah, okay, he uses words like that. This one's pretty basic. I feel like it's something you see on like a 3rd grade Valentine. Like, I think you're pretty super. But I was running out of ideas. And then the final one, you're making me geek out. Don't look at the typo, okay? I fixed it later, but the first time I didn't see it and I was so upset. But here's our final Valentines. They came out pretty nice. I like the palette. I used a gradient map again to make sure everything like fit, and I think it worked out. They're pretty cute. I hope you guys like them. I posted them to my Twitter and my Instagram, and Patreon got an exclusive one. Ooh. This was a little bit different than what I typically do. Let me know if you guys like it down below. Until next time, bye!